Live from Denver, Colorado, this is Before the Chop, the morning show for barbers. Here's your host, David Ford.
You've already made the decision. You've already made it. Somewhere in the last few months, maybe even in the last few weeks, you looked at your rate and you knew. You've watched your costs climb every year. You've watched your skill climb every year, and the number on your menu board has not moved in 2, maybe even 3 years. So you decided, this is it. This is the year. You just haven't done it yet. And the same reason you haven't done it yet is the same reason every barber hesitates. Not because you can't, not because you don't know how, because of one question that fires up in your chest every time you get close to pulling the trigger. What if they leave? Before I welcome anyone else, there's one person I need to talk to first today. You saw the title of the episode today. You felt your stomach drop about a half an inch and you clicked anyway. I saw that. And that half inch of nerve right there is the whole reason this show exists. So, good morning, barbers. Wherever we find you this morning, you clicked into the right place. I'm David Ford, a working barber here in Denver, and a man who has heard, I'll raise my prices when things settle down, from more good barbers than I can count, and watched when things settle down turn into never. So, I ask you to consider today's episode a field report from somebody who's seen exactly how this mistake gets made. Quick disclosure before I go any further, I am not a financial advisor, I am not a therapist, and I am certainly not even remotely qualified to tell you what to do with an extra $5 every week. I'm a barber who's watched this exact hesitation wreck good businesses more times than I could count. Just take that for whatever it's worth. Something comes up where we're rolling today. Hit the live chat. It's open the whole show. If you're catching the replay, the comments count double on this one, and if it needs more than one sentence, mailitbeforethechop.com is always open. And I want to cover one piece of news before we get into today. The show has now been nationally syndicated. That's right, we've been picked up, actually internationally, because we're now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if your mornings are chaos and you'd rather listen while you sweep up in between clients, we're now in your podcast app. Search Before the Chop, hit follow, and we'll be waiting for you. And there's a second piece riding along with that one today. We finally have a real home online. Now, if you ever typed in beforethechop.com, you know it just bounced you straight to the YouTube channel. It was a shortcut. And it wasn't a place, it wasn't our home, but that's done now. It's now our official website, and here's the cool part. When we're live on the air, the show is right there on the front page playing, so you don't have to go hunting for a link. The rest of the week, it's every episode, both podcast feed, and the countdown to the next Monday, all in one spot. So the next time somebody asks you where to find Before the Chop, that's the whole answer right now. It's beforethechop.com, one address for everything. Here's what I want from you right now. Drop in the chat the last year you raised your prices. Not a range, the actual year. I want to see how long we've been sitting on the same rate. The episode today is the one last week pointed toward. Last week, we ran the math on what one client is actually worth to you over the long haul. Today, we'll answer the question that math leads directly into. If they're worth that much, why are you charging like they're only worth one cut? We'll get into what happens when you actually raise your prices, not what you're afraid will happen, and what to say when you do. There's a story barbers tell themselves, and it goes kind of like this. You've probably told it too. I'm loyal to my clients. I'm not going to make the people who've been coming for years pay me more just because I can. That's not the kind of barber that I am. And some part of that is genuine. You've got clients who've been in your chair through your slow weeks, who've sent you their brothers, their coworkers, who've been showing up with no drama for years. The last thing you want to do is feel like you're penalizing them. I know that story because I've heard it from barbers I respect, said with total sincerity every time. But here's what that story cannot survive, looking at it honestly. It only works if it holds in both directions. And the version where you hold on to a rate that doesn't reflect the work you've put in over 2 or 3 years of building your craft, that version doesn't protect anybody. It protects you from an uncomfortable conversation. It gets dressed up as being about them, but it's about you and the thing that you don't want to do. Because here's what that frozen price is actually saying. It's saying that the skill you've built since the last time you raised it is worth nothing. It's saying that the cost increases you've absorbed without passing on to them are just a gift you're giving, which, fine, if that's intentional and you can actually sustain it. But if you're absorbing real cost increases while your rate holds still, what you're building is a slow cash drain that eventually either forces a decision or forces you out. Picture doing this with your own bills. Picture calling your landlord and saying, "Hey, I know rent's due, but I've decided you don't need the increase this year. I've got it handled." Yeah, he's not going to thank you for your thoughtfulness. He's going to raise it anyway because that is not how he thinks about you. He thinks about the number. You're the only person in this entire transaction treating your price like a favor instead of a fact. The price you charge is a statement about what you believe you're worth. And if you've been afraid to change it, that's the statement you've been making every day. Protecting your clients doesn't mean freezing a number. It means staying in business. It means staying sharp, staying in the trade, staying the barber that they've been counting on this whole time. The barber who can't make the numbers work isn't protecting anyone. They're barreling toward burnout, and they're calling it loyalty. There's your mindset minute. Let me state this fear directly because it's the thing we're here to take apart. If I raise my prices, I'll lose clients. That's the myth. And it's not entirely wrong, which is what makes it so sticky. You will lose some clients when you raise your prices. That part is true. It's undeniable. It's going to happen. What is not true is the part where losing them means the raise was a mistake. Here's what that fear is missing. It's not whether someone leaves, it's who leaves. I want to tell you about something that I've watched happen more times than I can count. A good barber sits on the same prices for 2, almost 3 years because they're afraid of exactly this conversation. Meanwhile, their costs go up. Their supply bill goes up. The caliber of the work goes up, and the rate doesn't move because they keep telling themselves they'll do it when things settle down, which is the same as saying never, by the way. And somewhere in the back of their head, they know it. I've sat in that hesitation myself, and I've watched it hold good barbers at a number they outgrew years ago. So I understand it, and I want to save you from staying in it as long as they did. Here's the actual math on what happens when you raise your prices. Your clients fall into 2 groups. This isn't a value judgment, it's just true. The first group is in your chair because of you, the relationship, the consistency, the way that you've earned what they want and how to give it to them. They've made a decision that you specifically are the person they want behind them. For that group, a price increase is a moment of mild adjustment. It doesn't change the decision. The price was never why they picked you, and it won't be why they leave. The price goes up the same way every other cost in their life does, and they just absorb it. The second group is in your chair because the value made sense. They found you on an app. The reviews were solid. The price was right, and the cut was good. But their attachment is to the deal more than to you specifically. They're good clients. They show up, they tip, they're not a problem, but if the math changes, some of them will recalculate. When you raise your prices, those 2 groups get sorted. The first group stays, some of the second group leaves. And here's the thing I need you to hear. That sorting is not a problem. That sorting is the point. Because after it happens, your chair is full of people who are in it because of you, not because of your rate, not because of your deal. the clients worth building a career on, the Marcuses that we talked about last week, and you're charging them what the work is actually worth. Now let's be clear, folks. Your actual friends still get the friend rate if you want to give it. That's totally yours to decide. What you don't get to do is quietly hand that rate to 300 people because saying no feels uncomfortable. A gift and a policy you never chose are two different things, and only one of them is sustainable. Now, let's run the number because this is where the fear actually falls apart, and you're going to find this interesting. Say you have 30 regular clients. You've been at $45. That's $1,350 a week if they all came in. So you raise to 50. You lose 10% of your clients, which in this case is 3 people. Now you have 27 clients at $50. That's $1,350 a week. The same money, but with 3 open slots. And those 3 slots fill back up with clients who arrive knowing what your rate is at 50. They found you there. They booked you there. There's no renegotiation in their head, no comparison to what it used to be. They just know that's the price. Most barbers do the math up to losing those 3 clients, and they just stop. They treat it as if that's the end of the story. I'm asking you to keep going. By month 2, those slots are usually filled, and a lot of barbers who have done this report coming out ahead. Not because the increase was large, but because the new clients who arrived at the new rate stayed at the new rate, and the clients who were never going to become long-term regulars anyway sorted themselves out of the picture. There's a signal for knowing when a raise is the right call. When you're 80% booked for 4 weeks running, the market is telling you something. It's telling you that demand for your chair exceeds what you're making available. At that point, your rate is below market for what you're offering. The raise isn't a gamble at that point. It's a correction to where the market already is. If you're not at 80% yet, the raise is the wrong answer. Get fuller first, but once you're there, staying at the old rate is costing you. It's costing you on every client in that 80% book who would have been happy to pay you the new rate and never will, simply because you didn't ask. Here's what today actually looks like, because nobody talks about this part. A couple of people go quiet. Maybe they don't book right away. You start second guessing it by Thursday. That's normal. Expect the dip before you see it. And don't panic. Don't go out and message anybody back to the old number. And here's the part that always happens and it never gets talked about. The client who made the biggest deal about the new price is going to rebook anyway. They do it almost every time. 2 more practical pieces, because go raise your prices is only a half a sentence. First, how much? The move that works is the boring one. $5 on a $45 cut is about 11%. That's a real raise. It shows up at the end of your month. It keeps pace with what your costs have been doing, and it's small enough that nobody has to reorganize their life around it. Later in the show, I'll tell you about a barber who went from 35 to 125 in 6 months and about what that set off. You're not doing that. If your rate is so far behind your market that you need that big correction, take it in steps. A step every 6 months or so reads as a business keeping up with the world. One giant leap reads as an announcement that somebody told you you're famous now. Second, when? Give it a real date, 3 or 4 weeks out, and put it on the calendar just as you would an appointment. Not soon. Soon is how barbers lose years. The date does 2 jobs. It gives you your regulars an actual runway, which is what makes the heads up land as a courtesy instead of as an ambush, and it takes the decision out of your own hands on the days you talk yourself back out of it. You've already decided. The calendar just holds you to it. And third, because I can feel this question coming, what about the client that pushes back anyway? It will happen less than you think, but it will happen. Here's the entire technique for when it does. Don't defend the number. The second you start explaining your supply costs to a grown man underneath a cape, you've turned your price into a negotiation. Just say, yeah, prices went up starting the 4th. I'd love to keep cutting your hair. That's it. Warm, flat, done. It usually plays out even shorter than that, though. Client says, whoa, when did that happen? And you say, starting the 4th, same haircut, $5 more. Want me to lock you in at your current rate, or should I see you after? That's like the whole exchange. There doesn't have to be an essay. There doesn't have to be guilt involved. You just answered a question with a fact and a choice. Because most pushback isn't really an objection. It's a person checking in on whether you believe your own number. One more thing I want to say about actually telling people, because there are two schools on this, and they're further apart than you'd think. One school says your long-term clients, the ones who were there before you were who you are now, who referred their people, who kept showing up, deserve to hear it from you directly and in advance. The other school says you don't need to announce it at all. You just change the number the same way every other business in your life does. And before you decide that second one sounds cold, I've been inside a shop that did it exactly that way, and it worked great. We're going to get into both in the craft corner today, including exactly what to say if you do say something, because it's simpler than you think. And if you've been arguing with me through the screen this whole segment, good. Hold on to it. There's a hot take in the back half of the show today with your name on it, and the comment section will be waiting for you right there when we get to it. Picture the moment barbers dread most about a price increase. It's not putting the new number on the menu. It's not the first time a new client books and pays it. It's the moment a long-term regular sits down, gets to the counter, and sees the new number for the first time, and they look at you. It's that moment. Now, here's the truth about this moment. It's almost always the product of a big jump, landing out of nowhere. A modest step almost never produces it, which is why there are two clean ways to run a price increase. And I've seen both of them work. Which one is yours comes down to the size of the step and how you want to play it. Here's play one. The quiet raise. You don't announce anything. No text, no sign, no speech. The number changes, and that's the whole event. And I can vouch for this one personally because the shop I work at has done it exactly this way. New number on the menu, no announcement. The thinking here was simple. Chipotle doesn't send you a text when the burrito goes up. You notice at the register, or you don't, and you order the burrito anyway because you were never there for the price. And that's exactly what happened at our shop. Clients came in, saw the number, paid the number. No exodus, hardly even a conversation. This quiet raise treats the increase like what it actually is. It's a business keeping pace with the world instead of a life event that needs a press release. Sometimes the announcement is the thing that creates the moment that you've been dreading. You hand somebody a decision they weren't looking to make. Where the quiet raise works best. When the step is a boring kind, the one we talked about, and it's a few dollars, not a leap, and when your price already lives somewhere public, on the menu board or on the booking app, where anyone can see it. So nothing's being slipped past anybody. It's already posted, it just doesn't come with a ceremony. Play 2, the personal heads up. This is for the barber who wants to spend the increase on the relationship instead of just banking it away, or whose step is big enough that it shouldn't arrive unannounced. The version where you reach out personally, with enough notice to decide what to do, barely registers. Most clients respond with something like, "Hey man, thanks for letting me know," and they're on to the next thing. The simplest way I know how to do this one is the 3 sentences. You don't need a long text, you don't need an email explaining your costs, and you don't need to justify yourself or apologize. 3 sentences. First one, tell them what's happening and when. "Hey Mike, starting August 4th, my prices are going up to $55 for a cut." Specific date, specific new number, no vagueness or ambiguity. Second sentence, make it personal. "You've been in my chair for a while, and I wanted to give you a heads up first. You're not blasting this out to a group. You're talking to a person who actually matters to you, and they can tell. And here's the third sentence. Give them a way to respond. If you want to lock in your next appointment at the current rate, before then, I've got some time open. Just let me know. This gives them something to do with the information instead of just sitting with it. Some will book immediately. Most will just say thanks and keep coming. A small number won't say anything, and that tells you something too. So hear that. 3 sentences, no apology in any of them. The warmth is in the fact that you even reached out to them directly, not in hedging or explaining yourself. You're running a business here. This is what businesses do. The personal touch is the thing that actually makes it land right. I want to show you the real thing, not just describe it. These are composites built from the pattern I've seen over and over, not any one person's actual word. So here's the text that works. Hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. Starting the 4th, my rate for a cut is going to 55. You've been coming for a while, and I wanted you to hear it from me first. If you want to grab your next one at the current price, just let me know. Okay, 4 sentences there instead of 3, but same energy, clean, warm, and it's over. And here's the text that I want you to never send. Hey, so I hate doing this, and I totally understand if you want to find somebody else, but my costs have just been insane lately, and I've been putting this off for months because I don't really want to lose you as a client, but I think sometime starting next month, I might have to go up a few dollars. No pressure, though, if you could totally... No, that's not a heads up. That's a hostage negotiation where you're the hostage. Every apology in there is doing the client's thinking for them before they even had a chance to react. And for play 1, the quiet raise, there is no text to. That's just kind of the point. So how do you pick your play? Size and relationship. Small step, posted price, the quiet raise is clean, and I've watched it work. Bigger step, or a book built on a handful of long tenure regulars, the heads up earns you something the quiet raise can't. And there's a hybrid that might be actually the best version of all. Raise quietly for the book at large and send the 3-sentence text to the 5, 6, or 10 clients who have been with you the longest. Everybody else absorbs it like the burrito. Your day ones get the courtesy. So here's your homework, folks. If the heads up is your play, pick one client who's been with you a while and send those 3 sentences this week. If the quiet raise is your play, it's even shorter. Pick your date, change the number, and don't write a speech about it. And watch what happens. While you're deciding which play is yours, I want to tell you about a tweet. Earlier this year, a mom posted about her son's barber, and it went viral. Cassius Life wrote about it back in March. Let me read you the part that set the whole thing off, because the numbers do the work. Her son's barber went TikTok famous, and in 6 months raised his rate 3 times, $35 to $125. $35 to $125 in 6 months. That's not a price increase. That's a different barber charging a different clientele out of the same chair, and it kicked off a whole conversation in this community about who gets priced out when a neighborhood shop goes premium. Somewhere out there is a mom who has no idea that she started an entire industry debate. Respect. I want to sit for both sides of this story for a second because they both matter. On one side, yeah, 35 to 125 in 6 months is aggressive in a way that's going to leave people behind. And it's the piece that and the piece makes the point that the black barbershop has always been more than just a transaction. It's culture, it's ritual, it's where boys turn into young men. When that space becomes bottle service pricing, there's a real question about who it was built for now. And on the other side, the numbers actually back up the barber on the broader trend. Bureau of Labor Statistics data from February of this year shows haircuts and personal care services up about 5% over the last year. The national average for a men's cut now sits at $43, just like we talked about last week. In Los Angeles, the average is $68, with the top of the market around $140. The economics of running a barbershop, rent, supplies, insurance, booking platforms have not held still. The barber who went viral was operating in a world where the cost of keeping the doors open is a completely different number than it was 5 years ago. Okay, here's how I see it. Both things can be true at once. The economics are real, and the culture is real. And the thing that makes the story feel bad isn't that the barber raised their prices, it's how it happened. Going from 35 to 125 in 6 months with no conversation and no runway for the clients who actually built you isn't a price correction. That's a rebrand that leaves your foundation behind. There's a version of this story that ends differently, where the barber raises the rate in steps. He gives their regulars real advance notice and prices their work to match with the skill level that they've earned. The outcome has a lot to do with the process, and the process is what we spent the last 20 minutes on. New from Barber Evo this week, their landmark 50th issue just dropped for July and August, and here's one piece of product news in it that I want to pull out, because the business angle is actually very interesting. Andis just launched a clipper called the Zephyr. What makes it different isn't the speed of the runtime, it's the problem it was built for. It's designed specifically for clients with sensory sensitivities. Ultra quiet motor, so you're not overwhelming someone who gets hit hard by the sound the moment you actually fire the clipper up. Dual speed settings, 3,500 and 5,500 strokes per minute, 3 hours on cordless, built in direct partnership with an organization called the Sensory Safe Solution. Now think about what this means for your chair. Clients with sensory processing sensitivities, kids on the autism spectrum are the most common example, but it's a wide population, have historically had a very hard time getting haircuts at all. Most barbershops are too loud, too unpredictable, and just too much. So they don't go. Or they find the one person who actually took their time to figure out how to work with them, and they become one of the most locked-in clients in that barber's entire career. Every one of us who have been at this for more than a year has had some version of this story. Kid bolts out of the chair the second the clipper turns on, parent apologizing from the waiting area, everybody just eating the appointment and moving on. Most of us treat that as like the cost of doing business. This is something somebody actually built for the problem instead of just living with it. Andis is saying that this is a growing market, and they're building tools for barbers who want to serve it intentionally. If you've already been doing this kind of work, slower cuts, quieter tools, more controlled environments, the Zephyr is worth looking at. If you haven't, it's worth knowing that it's there. We're not sponsored here, just a disclaimer. It's just relevant. No, nobody sent me one of these. Yes, I did notice that. And one more from the same issue. This year's NAHA Barber of the Year went to a barber named Carlos Pagan. He's a part of the Level 3 team, and that makes it 3 years running that a Level 3 barber has taken the title. A-Rod, one of Level 3's founders, won it back in 2024. NAHA, the North American Hairstyling Awards, is the biggest recognition in this industry. Winning it once is a career milestone. A team putting a barber on that podium 3 years in a row means they are not on a hot streak. They're in a category all by themselves. I bring this up in a pricing episode specifically because it illustrates something. There is a version of this trade where the work you put in, the craft, the consistency, the level of education and competition and continued improvement earns you the right to charge more. Carlos and the Level 3 team have made that case publicly on the biggest stage available to them 3 years in a row. So the question I'll leave with you this week on this subject is simple. What are you doing to make the case for yourself in your market? This whole show comes down to one decision: deciding what you're worth and charging it. And there's a barber also in this month's Barber Evo who is that decision in human form. Her name is Megan Cherry. Cherry the Barber out of San Antonio. She's in the landmark 50th issue in the chair section, and the words Barber Evo uses for her are resilience, determination, and growth. Those aren't words you hand somebody who got lucky. They're words for somebody who decided what her work was worth and built a career on not backing down from it. And it's not just a magazine calling her good. She's the creator of her own event, the 5-Star Barber and Beauty Expo, which means barbers pay her to be in the room. She's also an educator for JRL, one of the biggest professional tool brands in this trade, which means a company that makes its money selling to barbers decided she was worth putting in front of other barbers to teach. And she's investing in a marketing agency on purpose because she's not waiting to get discovered. She's building the case herself. Nobody hands you any of that. You get invited because somebody already believes in what you charge. And here's exactly why she belongs on a pricing episode. Everything we covered today runs through fear. Fear of what clients will think. Fear of the number. Fear of whether you've earned the right to say it out loud. And women in barbering, the barbershops specifically, not the broader beauty world, carry a heavier version of that fear than the men do. The expectation, before they ever pick up the clippers, is that they prove themselves first. Charge a little less while they earn it. Keep quiet about the work. Walk into most shops and count the chairs. If she's the only one, she didn't get graded on a curve. She got graded twice as hard for half the credit. And Cherry is what it looks like to turn that deal down. Award-winning barber, entrepreneur, a 50th issue feature in one of the industry's biggest magazines. None of that comes to the barber who charges like she's still auditioning. It comes to the one who bets on her own worth instead of shrinking it to keep everybody comfortable. And she did it from the exact starting line that tells women to do the opposite. So if part of you still needs proof that today actually works, that you can name your number and the career comes towards you, not away, she's it. Go find her. Cherry the Barber on TikTok. Watch a few of her videos and then ask yourself honestly whether you'd have made the same call she did. She's worth the follow. Here's a thing I want you to be honest with yourself about. When a barber tells me they can't raise their prices, my next sentence is almost always the same one. Here's what they say. My clients can't afford it. And I want to push you on that sentence today. So let me ask you something. Who told you he couldn't afford it? Did he say that? Did he look at the new number and wince? Or did you decide it for him before he ever got the chance? You decided. Because most of the time, here's what this actually is. It's you doing your client's budgeting for them without asking. Think about what's underneath that. You've decided on behalf of a grown adult with a full-time job, a phone bill, streaming subscriptions, and a truck payment bigger than your booth rent that $5 more every few weeks is the thing that breaks them. Now, you never asked, you just decided for them. And that's not respect. It feels like respect from the inside, but it's actually the opposite. It's assuming the people in your chair can't handle a real number for real work. And here's the part that gives it away. That same guy will drop $40 on a sleeve of 3 golf balls without blinking. But $5 more for the haircut he wears every single day, out in public, in every photo, in every meeting, suddenly he's reviewing his budget. Ask yourself honestly, which one of those is actually the luxury item? Now, some clients are actually genuinely stretched thin, and you know who they are because you know your people. And you can take care of those few people quietly, personally, one at a time. That's generosity, and it's yours to give. But a blanket freeze across your whole book because you imagined everybody's wallet for them, that's not generosity. That's a guess that costs you thousands of dollars a year and doesn't earn you a single thank you because nobody even knows you're making it. Your clients get to decide what your work is worth to them. That's their call. And they make calls like that every single day. Your job is to name the number with a straight face and let grown people be grown people. Here's a question for the comments. Have you ever actually asked a client whether a bump would move them, or did you just decide for them? Give me the honest version. Here's the one thing I want you to carry out of here today. The clients who would leave you over a reasonable price increase were never going to be your long-term regulars. They were in your chair for as long as the deal worked, and the day it didn't, they were going to find someone else. You can hold a rate that doesn't reflect your work for years, trying to keep those clients in the seat, and the day you finally raise it, they'll leave. And you'll have spent all that time undercharging the people who are actually loyal to you for nothing. Your best clients decided a long time ago that you're worth it. The only person at the table still negotiating is you. Charge accordingly. If today moved something for you, send this to one barber who's been sitting on the same rate for 3 years and doesn't know how to start the conversation. That barber exists in your contacts right now. You know the guy. He's been threatening to raise his prices since before TikTok existed. And if none of the rest of it landed, at least go order a burrito this week and pay attention to what happens to the price. It's the same lesson. The guac just costs extra. And come find us anytime, mail it beforethechop.com or drop it in the comments. Live every Monday, 11:30 Mountain, 1:30 Eastern. Come hang. And if you miss the live, the main segment and the Mindset Minute both go up as separate videos on the channel the same day. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any of it. And if you'd rather listen than watch, we're now syndicated internationally all over the world. That's right. Before the Chop is now an international show. Find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Search Before the Chop, and hit follow. The one show, this whole thing, we want to ride along with you to work every day, and we want to be there with you between clients. Now, everything, the live show, every episode, both feeds, now lives at beforethechop.com, one place, whenever you need it. Next week, burnout. Specifically, what barber burnout actually looks like, because most barbers who are burning out don't know it yet. And the ones who do don't know how to call it what it is. Next Monday, same time. I'm David Ford. This is Before the Chop. Go get behind the chair, chop some hair, and go crush it.